in just your time and experience in the space, like what's the next frontier? Like what's the next step that social media is going to be used as a stepping stone in youth sports or beyond? Like where do you see it going? You've seen everywhere it's been, but like where do you see the next big breakthrough, good or bad, where you see social going and either helping or hurting young athletes?
Well, I think for me, social's really brought balance to the force, right? Back in the day, I remember as a kid, reading newspaper articles and you read an article about maybe a guy on the team and, it'd say some inflammatory negative stuff about this guy. And you would just think, oh, well, this journalist must just be an honest human being. Like, certainly he doesn't have any biases or anything like that. So whatever he's saying must be gospel. Now, as you get older, you start to learn that, like, a lot of these reporters, whatever, they've got relationships with agents, they've got messages they need to put out there and things like that. So, it gives athletes a voice and opportunity, which is an amazing, incredible thing. But like I say about anybody, everybody's going to project their best image onto social media, right? They're not going to put the negative stuff, right? It's only going to be the highlights, the positives. So it's hard to find that balance where athletes can actually be true to themselves and talk about the good and talk about the bad. But I think we're in a landscape, in a world, like you mentioned, we don't need these big media platforms anymore. You want to announce your retirement, you can do it on your own social media accounts, whenever you feel like it, however you feel like doing it. You want to give a press conference after a game, you can give the media a bunch of canned answers, go home, look at a guy like Draymond Green. And I'm a big fan of Draymond and what he's done with the new media. But I'm also a big fan of Draymond because he's honest about himself. Look, I didn't play good today. I sucked. I needed to improve, but here's why. He's tough on himself, but he's honest and accurate about it. It's not just, hey, it was everybody else's fault, not me. So I think social is going to keep getting bigger and bigger. I think you look at, again, like a lot of these traditional media outlets and media companies, look at the way that ESPN moves, or look at the way that, I don't even know, Bleacher Report or any of these companies now, a lot of their content is now directly sourced from athletes, right? You put a tweet up, now I'm taking your tweet and putting a photo on it of saying whatever. LeBron puts an IG story up of, hey, he got some, a crown on his tooth. Everybody now is using and sourcing that as information. Back in the day, athletes didn't really have the ability to do that and the ability to control their own narrative. A guy like Kevin Durant, who we talked about earlier, KD can now, somebody says, hey, Kevin said this or Kevin said that, there's a report out. Kevin can go directly on his social account and say, no, I did not say that. I did not do that. I don't feel this way, whatever it may be. So it's extremely empowering. I think especially now we're in a world where NIL is like the wild, wild west. And for me, I wish there was a little bit more regulation on it. But I was a big, even when I was in college, advocate. I went to UCLA, right across town, USC football. They ran the city at that point. And a guy like Reggie Bush, and I look at the way a guy like Reggie Bush was treated by the NCAA, forced to give his Heisman back, forced to do this, forced to do that. And I always look like, this dude was severely underpaid. I don't care how much money you gave him in college. Like, us at UCLA's campus pondered the notion of buying a number 5 SC jersey just because of the impact he had on the city. But it goes, you would go to those games, and the thing I like to say about that is like, Reggie basically got punished, right? Did SC give back revenue from the tickets they sold, from the bowl games they won, from the monies they made off of jerseys? No, of course not. So there's a shift happening, and for me, it was always bothersome. I see somebody like Coach K making $10 million a year, and you got a guy like Zion Williamson on your team who's literally relegated to a scholarship check. It's asinine. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But we're in a world and a space now, especially with social. Social is only going to continue to grow. I think, it was funny. I was watching the Manti Te'o doc, and this is kind of random, a little bit off subject, but watching that Manti Te'o doc, thinking about what Facebook and MySpace used to be during those times. And everybody kind of jumped on Manti for getting catfish and all that good stuff. But I can tell you off the top of my head, 10, 15 guys I know who got catfished in similar situations back then because it's MySpace. You saw an account with a bunch of photos in your head, it was positive, so you just wanted to assume that this was a real person or whatever it may be. There was a catfish making the rounds across the NCAA basketball scene that became just like a cautionary tale for all of us about how to really do your due diligence, because it can be extremely convincing. I look at it now, especially in the world now, I don't know about you, but my phone rings 40 times a day with random area codes or whatever, or random text that looks so convincing and so believable, or random email so believable. Just click this link and we'll you got fraud in your credit card or whatever. Click this link and we'll fix it. That you have to take a step back and like key in on like, this is not real. They're trying to steal my account, or they're going fishing or whatever. But this stuff is so believable to your eyes. So I think when you just look at kind of what social is and what the landscape is, again, project the best image of yourself, but also just be a good person, especially everybody in the youth sports community. Use these social platforms that you have for good. Don't use them for evil. Like, use them to be able to advance your life, advance your career, support your family, brand yourself, give opinions that you believe, but also be mindful of whatever you put out. There's always, I look at a guy like LeBron. LeBron can tweet, "Hey, I'm hungry," and that'll, take a 24-hour news cycle of people trying to figure out what he means. Is he hungry to go to the Cavs? What does he want? Is he hungry to leave the Lakers? Like, whatever. Like, they can just take your words, twist them, mangle them. So I feel like social gives athletes the ability to control their narrative a lot, but we're also dealing in a world, in a landscape where there's so many people just stirring the pot just for their own joy. I mean, I look especially on Twitter now. Instagram, I don't know if it's as bad, but you got kids that create accounts on Twitter just to hate on athletes, just to, anything a LeBron or a Steph or whoever posts, just to say the most inflammatory, out-of-pocket, negative stuff that they could think of to get a rise out of them. I played with Matt Barnes at UCLA, and I recall Matt a couple months ago, some guy, went personal, started talking about his family and stuff, and Matt's like, like this is kind of crossed the line. I'm gonna come find you. And then the dude's like, "Oh no, I was just kidding, Matt. I love you. I'm a big fan." And I'm just looking like, you're just kidding. You love him. You're a big fan. But then why are you doing those things that are going to put yourself in that position? And I can't explain it now. Socials, I've said before, is like a drug, right? It's like you become a fiend that's kind of craving that fix. You want those hits. You want those likes. You want those retweets. You need the views on that video, because if I have a bunch of views on that video, that means people like me. If I don't have a bunch of views on that video, that means nobody likes me, and whatever it may be. So I'm even, again, guilty of it. But as I've gotten older and I've gotten to see the light a little bit, I try to use even my platform and my voice just to be like, look, man, you're not as bad as the worst thing you've ever done. You can always come back from whatever it may be, obviously within certain reason and limits, of course, but you don't have to let social define who you are. But while you are using it, use it to your advantage. Take advantage of these things. You're not going to be able to move how you want to, and that's anything in life, right? As you get, I think in college, especially as a college athlete, we think that we're just going to control the world. We think life's going to be like campus once we get off of it, where we're, treated like guys, and you get free food at restaurants, and everybody loves you, and everybody wants an autograph. Then slowly but surely, at some point, and this is tough, I know, Paul, you can speak to this a lot better, some point, that light starts to fade, right? And now you're not the star NFL player anymore, the star NBA player, the star college basketball player, and you got to go live your real world. I deal with that, personally. I went from UCLA to working as a PA at NFL Network. So went from literally being big man on campus to literally go get coffee for Rich Eisen. That's your gig. And, I'm 6'8", and everybody's looking at me like, damn, well, you must have sucked at basketball. And how'd your life? But now you got to just take those moments. And I was guilty of it too. I would look at guys whose careers didn't pan out and like, why are you working a regular job? Like, you were really good at basketball. Like, but that's just not how it pans out. So I think for parents, especially, man, on the youth side, and kids, like, be mindful of social, use it to your advantage. And, especially just know now that it's not going anywhere. It's only going to get worse. Not worse, but it's only going to get bigger. And you're going to have to deal with a lot of stuff. You might be minding your business one day. You're going to have a troll say something crazy to you that just came out of left field, came out of nowhere. That just is what it is. So you got to have super thick skin, rely on the people, your support system around you that are going to be able to help you, be able to guide you, and really trust and be able to identify and key in on the people that really love you for who you are versus the people that love you for what they think you can do for them.